Chelsea plot Lukaku move, Dybala and Pogba in, Ronaldo out at Juve, Man City are set for a summer overhaul, France youngsters prepare for a busy transfer window and a transfer roundup, all coming up on today's OneFootball Daily News. As I'm your host Angelina Kelly, let's get into it. First up, and yes, Chelsea are not wasting any time. Despite just being crowned European champions, they are already looking to next season and how to strengthen their squad so that they can be in contention for the Premier League title. Now, according to The Guardian, Thomas Tuchel will be given a new contract with Chelsea that will take him up until 2023. Of course, as a bit of a reward for getting them that Champions League trophy. And what this means is that he can really focus on his next move and who he's going to bring in. And of course, the main focus is a centre forward, and they are targeting Lukaku. Lukaku, of course, was a Chelsea player. He made the move to Everton in 2014. Fast forward to today and he made the move to Inter Milan. He managed 33 goals under his belt this season and was vital for them in winning their Serie A title. So looking at the fact that Lukaku is such a massive player for Inter, you wouldn't expect that they'd be willing to get rid of him. But of course, with the manager Antonio Conte walking from the club quite recently, this is reportedly all due to transfers and signings. He wanted to build on this team that he's got at Inter Milan, but the club, due to financial issues, wanted to potentially sell some big players, not make any big signings, as they want to reduce their wage bill by 20%. So Lukaku actually departing from the club could be very realistic. Inter reportedly will only let him go for around £100 million. Chelsea will want to negotiate this and see if they can get the price lower, but they will be freeing up some funds with some departures. Of course, there is Fikayo Tomori, who looks like he'll be making his move to AC Milan quite permanent. Then there's Olivier Giroud, he also could be making the move to AC Milan. And then of course there's Tammy Abraham and Callum Hudson-Odoi, who have also been linked with some moves away from the Blues. Looking at Chelsea and how far they've come this season, their record defensively does look great. However, when you weigh up the fact that they've brought in Hakim Ziyech, Timo Werner, Kai Havertz last season, of course they have Mason Mount as well, they do have quite a big roster of players, but they still definitely need more when it comes to attacking. As when you look at their records under Thomas Tuchel, they have actually only managed to score more than 2 goals in a game once in 30 games under the manager. So like I say, you can understand why they are looking at a striker. Of course, Eden Hazard was a potential player that they could have brought back to the club. However, he has stated in an interview that since his move to Real Madrid hasn't been that successful, he's looking to prove himself at Los Blancos. So, like I say, Lukaku could be the man for the job. Next up, and with Max Allegri now back at the helm with Juventus, apparently the first thing on his agenda, according to Goal, is to secure Paulo Dybala at the club. Of course, his contract doesn't run out until the summer of 2022, but contract negotiations have broken down reportedly earlier this year, but with Allegri now back at the helm, they are going to have new negotiations. Now, the contract talks are reportedly going to be about his long-term future. Now, his future was seemingly going to be away from Juventus, especially with all of the transfer talk that has been had about Dybala. Now, it kind of does make sense because at the end of the day, this season has arguably been his worst with Juventus, especially when you consider the amount of goals and assists that he has or maybe hasn't contributed, and he didn't really seem to fit into the system alongside the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo and Alvaro Morata. However, you can also understand why Allegri does want to pin him down. He was far more influential when Allegri was in charge. He was the diminutive frontman who had a brilliant season back in the 2017-18 season where he actually managed to bag 26 goals. I'm sure fans will be keeping their fingers crossed that Allegri and Dybala can rekindle this connection and Dybala will be back on fire for Juventus. Maybe some people not, I'm not too sure. But what this does mean is there will be questions over Cristiano Ronaldo's future and Morata's as well. Ronaldo has been linked for so long now with a potential departure from Juventus, but of course Manchester United has been brought up that he could potentially return to Old Trafford, and leaving Old Trafford as a bit of a swap deal could actually be Paul Pogba. The 28-year-old Frenchman has been linked with a move back to Italy. I mean, he does seem to be linked with a move back to Italy every single summer, but if you think of the fact that Juventus are trying to keep costs down, and that could be a reason why they are willing to let Ronaldo go, bringing in Pogba, maybe he's not going to be as expensive as Ronaldo, but still an expensive move. I'm not too sure if I could see this one happening, and you pair this with the fact that Pogba hasn't yet given his summer speech that he normally does, where he alludes to some mystery, that he's looking for a new challenge, alluding to the fact that he wants to leave Manchester United. This hasn't happened, so maybe he's actually going to stay. Allegri has reportedly said that Pogba being back at Juventus would be a dream signing. I'm sure they could definitely make room for him in that midfield. I think that they would really benefit from him being at the club, but like I say, I'm just not too sure if I can see this one happening. I'm not too sure where I can see Ronaldo, and I'm not too sure if they can even even keep Dybala. Our next story takes us to Manchester City, who of course I'm sure are still recovering from that painful Champions League final. However, Pep Guardiola is reportedly looking ahead to the future as he wants to bring in some new faces to rejuvenate the squad. So in case you missed the news, of course Sergio Aguero will be making the move to Barcelona on July 1st once his contract with City does expire. He has signed a 2-year deal with a €100 million buyout clause. And then of course there is Eric Garcia, who has also signed with Barcelona. He will be making a return back to the Catalan side. And there are actually some other faces that could be departing. First, you've got Aymeric Laporte. Definitely makes sense when you consider the fact that Ruben Dias and John Stones have been dominating those central defensive roles. Then you've got Benjamin Mendy. João Cancelo has been taking over that role of a left back, so can definitely understand why he's potentially looking for pastures new. Then you've got Raheem Sterling. Again, another one that makes sense. Whilst he did start in the Champions League final, he's not necessarily been the shining star that City are used to. Then there is Gabriel Jesus. Again, another player that hasn't really set the stage alight. And these sales are all to free up a little bit of cash for Manchester City, as reportedly, according to Goal, they do want to free up some cash. However, where will all of this money be going? Of course, Manchester City are not normally the type of club that spend crazy amounts of money on players. They have been known to walk away from deals before when the prices get a little bit too steep. However, one player that they are interested in who could arrive at the club for free is Sergio Ramos. Now, of course, he's at Real Madrid. He hasn't signed a contract extension with the club, apparently because they will not offer him a 2-year deal because he is 35 and there are some concerns about his fitness. But Manchester City, on the other hand, they are reportedly willing to offer him a 2-year deal and potentially a move to their club in New York City. However, Ramos, despite being 35, will definitely still want game time. The main reason that Laporte is potentially departing from Manchester City is because he can't get game time because of obviously Stones and Diaz. So I'm not too sure if he would make the move to potentially be an understudy to not only Stones and Diaz, but potentially Nathan Ake as well. Alongside this, despite the fact that David Alaba has signed with Real Madrid, if Real Madrid do not manage to get Rafael Varane to sign on the dotted line, they then could reportedly be a little bit more convinced to offer Ramos what he wants. So I'm not too sure, City fans, if you can get too excited yet about seeing Ramos in a blue shirt. Next up, and it was a massive night in the Under-21s European Championship as Portugal, Spain, the Netherlands and Germany all booked their places in the semi-final of the competition. One nation that unfortunately will not be in the semi-finals is of course France. They crashed out to the Netherlands on Monday night as they lost 2-1. However, what this does mean is that for some of the youngsters in the France squad, this does mean that they can now focus their attention on some potential moves in the summer. Of course, Dayot Upamecano and Ibrahima Konate were parts of the squad that crashed out on Monday night. Now, they already have secured their moves to Bayern Munich and to Liverpool. However, there are so many other talented players in this Under-21 squad that will definitely be considering pastures new this summer. First, you've got Houssem Aouar. We've spoken about him before on OneFootball, an absolutely incredible young talent. He's had a brilliant season with Lyon. He has been rumoured with a move away before. It didn't happen. He was linked with Arsenal. He's now been linked with Arsenal again. Reportedly, the club are going to try and get him for around £30 million. Whether this will happen or not, I'm not too sure, but there are definitely quite a few clubs interested in him. Then there's Moussa Diaby, the Bayer Leverkusen winger, has definitely been linked with quite a few moves. Everton's one of the clubs that are reportedly interested. Then you've got the likes of Borussia Dortmund, who have also been linked with the player. However, just because he's a winger does not mean he would be Jadon Sancho's replacement, as he does tend to play on the left. But speaking of a Sancho replacement, of course, Jonathan Ikone, he plays with Lille. He's been linked with a potential move as he is a right winger. He's also in this France Under-21 squad, so he's another name that could be on the move. And then there is Eduardo Camavinga, arguably one of the brightest stars to come out of this France Under-21 squad. I mean, he has been linked with a move from Rennes for so many transfer windows now. Of course, Real Madrid have been one of the clubs that are apparently interested in him. They could definitely welcome him into their midfield. Then, of course, recently there has been a report that he's interested in a move to PSG. So again, just another player in this squad that has so many different options in the summer. And although fans will of course be disappointed that they are not going to be in the semi-finals or the finals of the Under-21s European Championships, it's definitely going to be an interesting summer to see where some of these stars are headed. And now it's our transfer roundup. This is where I take a look at some of the other news and transfers going on in the footballing world. And first up, a Copa America update for you all. The South American Football Federation have confirmed that Brazil will be the new host for the competition. Villarreal's Europa League winning Spanish striker Gerard Moreno has been linked with a move away from the club, with the likes of West Ham, Newcastle and Roma all interested. Today's a big day for England fans as Gareth Southgate will be finalising finalising his 26-man squad for the Euros, and reports are stating that Trent Alexander, James Ward-Prowse and Mason Greenwood could all miss out on a spot in the squad. And finally, Jadon Sancho, we have a little bit of news. Apparently Manchester United have agreed personal terms with the player, although they are yet to actually make a formal bid to Dortmund. So that's everything for today's OneFootball Daily News. As always, check out all the other content that we've got here, and until next time, I will see you all later.